Hello. Welcome to episode 7 of season 2 of Calm Down with James Eade. And I'm James Eade. And I'm not calm, but I can make myself calm. I can calm myself down by using the tools and techniques that have been taught to me. And the elections are over. I was tense before the elections, but now they're over. Shouldn't I be calm? No. They didn't go the way I had hoped and expected. Sometimes having expectations can lead to either disappointment or resentments, and resentments can take you out. If you're in recovery from addiction, of whatever the addiction is, resentments can be your worst enemy. So I try not to resent it, and I try to respect the results of the election, and I try to believe the best of my fellow Americans, of people in general, and it's hard for me to reconcile what happened with my beliefs, but I can look at this as a test, as a challenge, as an opportunity to grow. And these words sometimes sound hollow to me, but they're true. There's nothing that's going to be given to me, put in my way, that I cannot endure and overcome. And only if I remain calm can I do so. And if I can do that in the face of adversity, then I can grow as a person, and I can still respect the results of an election that didn't go my way. And I don't have to spend time thinking, what could I have done differently? There's no sense of going down that rabbit hole, because it was what it was, and it happened the way it happened. And that's all that I can say about it, because I can't change it. And if I cannot change it, I must accept it. So I accept it and move on. And I do the next right thing in front of me. And if I'm calm, I can intuitively know what that is. If I allow myself to get agitated, to get anxious, to get angry, then sometimes I become very confused about what the next right thing to do is. So continue to do the next right thing. And you know that you have to remain calm in order to be able to ascertain what that is. So remain calm. And if you find yourself in a state of anxiety, for me, take a deep breath. Now, I have my spiritual rituals that I go through every morning where I can retrieve a state of calmness. And does it last for 24 hours? No. So I know that I will eventually get agitated, anxious, or angry. But if I become aware that I've gotten into that state, I can do something about it, because I have the tools and techniques that have been taught to me, that I have learned and practiced. And it takes practice, because it is not easy. Oh no, it's work. But this work pays off. And if you do it, and if you're faithful and take this seriously, that self-care is not selfish. Taking care of yourself in times of sadness and grief and anxiety and work and all the things that affect all of us at various times throughout our lives. These things will help ease whatever pain and suffering you're experiencing. And if you're at ease, you can help the pain and suffering of others. And now, if you can help the pain and suffering, ease the pain and suffering of others, why wouldn't you? So let's take this moment to take a deep breath. And calm down. Welcome to episode 7 of season 2 of Calm Down with James Eade. I'm James Eade, and when we're not calm, we tend to make poor decisions. So anger and agitation is one of the things that can get me out of sorts. And I bring in a senior consultant on agitation from LA, Rick Rosner. Hello, Rick.
Hey.
What's got you worked up today?
I guess my gripe is with myself and everybody else who participated in election 2024 and who is now doing Monday morning quarterbacking.
Ah, yes, of course.
Yeah,
natural thing.
we thought we had it in the bag. I even bet hundreds of dollars on the outcome. That money is wiped out, which is nothing compared to, the wipeouts that we think we are going to experience in the next 4 years, particularly in the next 2 years, because Trump is going to own the Supreme Court, the House, and the Senate.
Right.
And he's appointing a lot of assholes, some known to everybody and some who will probably be new to everybody. Elise Stefanik is going to be the UN ambassador, which she's an a-hole that is less familiar. But UN, she can't do that much damage at the UN. But Stephen Miller is going to be his deputy director of policy. Stephen Miller is the Goebbels guy, the vampire-looking mofo who hates everybody, but especially immigrants.
Nosferatu, yes.
Yeah, he's the guy behind the family separation policy. Sure, he's got some new ideas. So yeah, my wife is freaking out. We've been looking at, our kid is in England. We've been looking to spend more time with her. And now that search is a little bit more propelled.
To be honest with you, I looked up the top countries to move to if you're an American citizen. And so I'm with you on that temptation. But
you can't move to England. England doesn't want any more people. You can only visit. And if they think that you're trying to move there, they can say, no, you can't visit anymore either.
Right. Yes, some sagacity there. But one of the things that I've been doing to deal with my the traumatic effect of considering former years of Trump as president, not only that he owns, owning the House and the Senate, that means that the Republicans are going to get their way. But it's not the Republicans that I'm worried about in terms of, it was Nikki Haley or Mitch Romney, John McCain. It would have been okay because, we go through these cycles where you throw the bums out and you give them a chance, and then you throw the bums out and give the other people a chance, but this is different. We're talking about someone that's amoral and, doesn't care about anyone but himself. And this is not good for the country. And I'm afraid that the Senate and Republicans will go along with him because he did win staggeringly in terms of the Electoral College, and he even won for the first time the popular vote.
All right, last time the Republicans won the popular vote was in 2004, George W. Bush's second election.
Right.
Though, people are saying landslide. It wasn't a landslide. It was a resounding victory.
Yes.
But the last landslide was in 1984, Reagan's second election, where he carried 49 states, got 58.77% of the vote. Right now, they're still counting votes. Trump is at about 50.4% of the vote compared to 48% for Harris. So even though now everybody's piling on the Dems and Harris, calling her, the weakest Democratic candidate in, 20 years, she got 48% of the popular vote, which is not nothing.
Right. It's certainly not a landslide, and it was too close to call right up until, it could be called. The fact that she lost Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania really surprised me. And but she did, although they were squeaker contests.
Well, so last time, 2020, Trump got 74 million votes. It looks like this time he'll get about 75 million votes.
Right.
Which is crazy for a guy like him would, but that's what he did. And then Biden got 81 million votes, and Harris is at 71.3 million, still counting votes, but millions and millions of voters failed to show up, who voted for Biden failed to show up for her.
Yeah. So what we have to do is accept the results of the election, unlike certain people.
Well, like people ask, and people, on Twitter, people say there must have been, cheating. No, there wasn't. It's so widespread.
Yeah.
So, Trump won 2016 by 40,000, 70,000, a total of that many votes across the swing states, and Biden won 2020 by 70,000 votes across the swing states.
Right.
But Harris underperformed 2020 every place in all demographics. And
Right.
for it to have been stolen from her, it would have taken a conspiracy of, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, millions of votes. It's like, I would entertain arguments that there was hope that there was election tomfoolery in 2016, but absolutely not this time around. It would have required
too much coordination.
Impossible.
Yeah. I agree. So what I'm doing now, and I just want to see, there's a thing in yoga called witness mode. And, really accomplished people can do it while they're having conversations. I could do it while I'm in a meeting, which is like you look outside yourself at yourself included in what's going on. And, it gives you a perspective. Like, are you being judgmental towards this person and that sort of thing? So those more accomplished than I can do it even in an individual conversation. But what I'm thinking of is take that and just witness the next 4 years rather than what I did in 2016, which was resist and fight it. In my situation, the condition that I'm in, the condition my condition is in, I can't afford to spend 4 years anguished and fighting.
Yeah, like my heart, like I've started to increase my blood pressure dosage by 50% some days. Because it's bad for you to have the constant thumpa 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 thumpa, and
right.
And as I've said, I lost 15 or 20 pounds during Trump 1, because from 2017 through 2020, I couldn't eat carbs. I'd eat carbs and I'd get diarrhea. It altered my my gut biome. Which is ridiculous. So this time around, but it takes something dire to drive me out of myself. I know that to feel like I'm hovering above everything. So I mean, with me, I'm not educated in Buddhism or Zen or meditative practices. But yeah, I did on election day. I felt that same altered state when I went back to the New York Times needle. The electoral needle that points towards one direction. That thing, as it started to sink again into Trump land, I kind of hovered over everything in an unhappy way.
Yeah. This is more of looking at things and trying not to be judgmental, because there are going to be things that are just going to set me off inevitably throughout the next 2 years, especially. Who knows what's going to happen, because I do believe they will throw the bums out next time around. That just seems to be a pattern, and I think that's what happened. The majority of Americans thought incorrectly that the economy was poor, and the economy is outstanding. It's been, the United States has had the greatest recovery from the COVID pandemic of any industrialized country. And, the stock market is setting highs. The corporations are reporting record earnings. Wages are going up. Unemployment's going down. So all of these things, but the perception, you can't change the perception of people. And it's because of the inflationary effects of the COVID pandemic, the breakdown of our global distribution system, prices were up. Prices didn't come back down.
I read some pundit, I wish I'd written down his name, because I haven't been able to find the quote since, but I don't know, 15, 20, 30 years ago, I read a quote that said that the measure of how bad a president is how long it takes for the next president to undo the damage that was done. And Trump's worst year was his last year as president, 2020, with COVID, and a lot of the damage slopped over into Biden. And the question was going to be, would Biden be able to undo that fast enough that it wouldn't kill him in the 2024 election? And he couldn't.
The answer is no, he didn't. Yeah. And, who could have? So I think, it was doom. And I don't think Harris was a terrible candidate at all at that street. But, I think, and we.
But terrible messaging.
Monday morning quarterbacking, but the messaging could have been better and stronger.
I mean, the Biden administration was criticized for turtling, for not giving press conferences. For the New York Times was notoriously pissed off at Biden for never doing an interview with him. And I don't know, were they smug? Were they afraid that Biden's verbal abilities had declined and would make him look feeble? I don't know, but they didn't. Would messaging have saved the election if they'd been, I don't know, if you want a time machine, the whole frickin' thing, they would have had to have been as mean about immigration from day one. They would have had to say, look, immigration remains a problem. We're going to keep being assholes to people who come here. And all right, so, and they would have had to just send checks to people, which I think they should have done for inflation. We sent checks to people for COVID. We know you're suffering under COVID. Absolutely. Here's a check for $1,200 every single American, and we sent multiple checks, I think.
Yeah.
Now we should have done the same thing. We know you're suffering under inflation, and here's a check for $1,500 to help, cover some of your groceries. And then everybody would have screamed, but that in itself is inflationary. And they should have said, suck it, here's some money.
Yeah.
And
I do believe we can replay it forever in our minds. Right. But what we really, I think I need to do to take care of myself, because self-care is not selfish. You've really got to take care of yourself, and people such as myself, and I assume you as well, who are passionate about this, that really took it on the chin. And so we're still reeling. I'm still reeling. And I still wonder, how could we have put someone, convicted of 34 felonies, sexual abuse, we can go on and on. He's just a con man, and he conned people again. How can they have fallen for it? Well, so I wonder about my fellow American citizens, but this is not productive for me personally. I didn't get out of bed until after 11 a.m. and then I took a nap. I was so just depressed. And so these are the things that I don't have to allow, because you can't control the experience, but you can control your response to the experience. So I've been working on changing my vibration to vibrate at a higher level, and to be loving and kind to those around me. And those are the things that I can do to help me take comfort, because my life is really not going to change that much.
We're two white guys in California. We're fairly well insulated.
Right.
I mean, we'll see the news, and I don't know, with Trump, I mean, I've known Trump was an asshole since the 80s when I lived in New York for a while. He was famous for being just a blowhard back then. Nobody gave a crap because he wasn't, I mean, some people did when he ran the ad that said that, that the Central Park Five, should be executed or whatever the hell he said. But I mean, he didn't really impact people's lives in any significant way.
Right.
And, so when you look at the people who voted for him, the 75 million people who did, now the loudest voices, the ones you see on Twitter, are full of denial that he's a bad guy. But among the 75 million, there must be tens of millions of people who know he's an asshole, and know he's, an adulterer and just a con man, but who voted for him despite that, because they think he'd be better for the country.
Right.
It's the whole King David thing from the Bible, where King David was a huge asshole. He wanted to bang one of his general's wives, so he sent the general off to be slaughtered in a battle, and the guy got slaughtered, and King David got to bang the wife. But then, so people are saying, yeah, Trump's like that eventually King David sought redemption and God granted him redemption. But, Trump, what my wife was saying, yeah, that people are he's a flawed vessel, but a vessel for God just the same. But he's not. He's never asked for redemption. But,
Never.
To think, I mean, it's when the liberals are yelling at each other, one of the things they yell after this election is it's naive and unproductive to think that every single Trump voter is an idiot who was entirely swayed by bullshit propaganda.
Oh, of course not. Yeah. No, 75 million people who are not a unanimous, homogeneous bloc. There are all sorts of different people voting for him for all different sorts of reasons, but there is the idiot factor as well.
Sure.
Yeah. And
do you have a henna drawing on the back of your hand?
Yes, it is a henna drawing. Yeah, I went to a Diwali party. Yeah, and the person. It was amazing to just watch her do it because she was so skilled. Yeah, so it's going to eventually wash off. It's been a week, but.
And so I was wondering if you could find tranquility by looking at your hand.
Well, these are the types of tools that help me remind me, because it's an awareness for me is the key. And, I can find myself getting all worked up again. And if I can become aware that I'm worked up, I know the tools and techniques that I can use, such as taking a deep breath and relaxing and concentrating on what's right in front of me instead of going down the rabbit hole of future tripping and what's going to happen to the country. And this is a part of the tools. It's really comforting to know that this is ancient wisdom, or born from ancient wisdom, and there's so much though that we can tap in. We're told that we have a collective unconscious, and that seems to have been absorbed in society, but no one talks about a collective super consciousness. I believe that the wisdom of the ages is in our DNA. We just haven't been taught how to access it, and then if we can access it, then we hear wisdom, and some people attribute it to God or to a higher power of some sort, and it just might be within us all the time. We just don't tap into it.
I don't know about that, but I know that there's another super consciousness in play, and that's AI. And AI
know about that. That's real.
AI is going to increasingly manipulate us. It'll be the smartest thing in the room, or at least the people who know how to use AI will be the smartest people in the room. And we can hope that at least in the early days of AI, it will share our goals, that it won't go Skynet on us and decide we're the problem. It'll share the idea, a support of order and not wrecking everything, and that it will use its powers to, some AI already will, AI doesn't know anything, at least not yet. It's not conscious. But if you talk to it, it talks like something that is conscious, because it's its entire diet, everything it's consumed, is the product of conscious humans. Every human is conscious. And so when we produce language, when we produce the snippets that AI feeds on, it's eaten a lot of consciousness. And so its responses are the responses of a conscious being. And we can hope that its responses are, now, like, if you feed a bunch of racism into AI, you'll get racist responses. If you feed there was one AI that got all creepy and started hitting on women because a bunch of creeps had fed that kind of behavior into it. But we can hope that AI overall, like, is pro-humanity.
Well, let's save that gripe for next week, because I have a lot to say on that topic too, but we're just not up with time. But thanks so much. And take care of yourself, as I'm going to try to take care of myself.
Sorry to go off on a weird tangent.
That's okay. That's my gripe for now.
Okay.
Thank you again. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. That was our senior anger management consultant, Rick Rosner from LA. This has been episode 7, season 2, the anger management session. And this has been Calm Down with James Eade. And I'm not doing such a good job. If you have any suggestions, please feel free to pass them on. Thank you. Hi, in this episode, episode 7 of season 2 of Calm Down with James Eade, we're going to work on some calming down techniques. We're going to go through the chakras. We've been going through the chakras, and but I'm not competent to teach you about this, so I'm going to bring on Yudhisthira. Yudhisthira, hello. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Jim.
I'm going to throw the ball in your court and let you tell us how this is going to help us change our attitudes and calm down.
When someone throws a ball to you, there's always 2 things that can happen. You either catch it or you don't.
Yeah.
So I'll try to catch this one as best I can.
Okay.
We have been, we are talking about the chakras, working our way through the chakras, and I will start this as I have started, I think, most of our segments this season, with the simple reality that the teachings of yoga are not acquired knowledge. And what I mean by that is that they are not acquired through the process, for example, of Western science, which is a very admirable approach to gathering information and sifting through by the means of the scientific method what is true and what is not true.
Right.
It's a very valid way to approach the material world. It loses its effectiveness when it comes to people. And as soon as people are involved, things begin to go awry in that world of science. The same is true with yoga, and that is to say that the challenges of yoga are that we have this tendency within ourselves to react to things that are going on around us over which we have absolutely no control.
Right.
And we get so caught up with them that I heard a term used last night in a meeting I was at, that, for example, lowering one's expectations of what one is capable of achieving, I heard it referred to as an incarnation bomb.
Whoa.
Which means that you can lose the potential value of an entire incarnation by somehow lowering your standards.
I see.
And the same is true with reactivity, is that we can get caught up as much as we want to in the appearance of things as they are, and it will never be telling us the entire truth. And yoga comes from a place of wisdom that is handed down directly from the source. The teachings are then put into the hands of human beings, where it is either distorted or misunderstood, or in the case of some particular beings, gurus, avatars, true prophets, and really good teachers, you end up with a clarity a clarifying quality that breaks through the tendency that we have to get caught up in the outer world. Honestly, it does not matter what tradition those seers come from, those teachers.
Sure.
The Dalai Lama is just a wonderful, clear source.
Right.
And it's true within every single religion.
Right.
And that's because of the fact that the religions don't matter as much as some people give them credit for being. We
Right.
don't have, the outward form of a religion really is not as important as whether or not it contains a clear pathway for an individual to return to his or her source.
Right.
And I just was very politically correct there in saying his or her. At the level of the soul, there is no his or her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, this last week has been tumultuous, for many of us. And, the third chakra, which we're going to talk about today, excuse me, really figures into this a lot, because the third chakra is the element is that of fire.
If I can just interject before we get started with it.
Yeah.
The incarnation bomb, I wanted to be clear that you meant, don't lower your standards.
That's exactly what I mean.
You can have you can not expect certain outcomes to become reality, but that doesn't mean that you want to see the world as a more just, peaceful place, for example.
Yeah, making things easier does not necessarily make for spiritual progress.
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
That's for sure.
And so when things are
No pain, no gain.
Well, there is that. And it's, little aphorisms in daily life actually sometimes really land correctly.
Yeah.
No pain, no gain. However, it's easy to take that to an extreme.
Sure.
Where people think that everything should be painful if it's going to have any value.
Yes.
And it's simply understanding that things are never going to be outwardly the way that we want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
That the real work happens within ourselves.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. That was one of the primary learnings in my recovery, was that it was an inside job.
Yep.
And one of the people that I really like told me, it's what other people think of me is none of my business.
Yes.
It's my internal standards that I want to live up to, and the ones that I set for myself, and practicing the teachings that I've been taught as well as I can without expecting myself to be perfect.
Well, what you just described is a place of balance.
Mm-hmm.
And finding that place of balance is very much what yoga ends up being about.
Yes.
Yoga ends up, and of course we practice it outwardly. For example, if one is finding himself in a place of being distraught, and oftentimes, and even recognizing I'm distraught over something I have no control over.
Right.
All right. And speak of the election if you like, but that's only one big example because it's front and center right now.
There's more than, it can happen almost any day for any reason. Yeah.
Right. It could be someone saying something to you or doing something to you that you didn't see coming, or an accident that occurred that was not necessarily anyone's fault, but nonetheless, your reaction to it is all that's going to matter. Right. But yoga offers a lot of different ways, to deal with that. And I was just taught a yoga class this morning, and I focused a lot on standing balance postures.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is very simple. When one is standing, for example, in something as simple as tree pose.
Right.
If you can picture it, you're standing on 2 feet, but one foot is bearing weight, one leg is bearing weight. The other foot is propped against the weight-bearing leg, sort of like a kickstand on a bicycle.
Right.
And that may be enough of a challenge for someone to bring her hands to her heart, and that may be enough of a challenge that will bring her into the moment.
Yes.
I'm right here right now. I need to be right here right now to stay balanced. For
Yeah.
someone else, it might require that they bring that foot up on the inside of their weight-bearing thigh and bring the arms above their head. And then they will be challenged enough to make spiritual progress, to come into the present moment, which is the only reality we possess.
Right.
One of the greatest discoveries within the 20th century in quantum physics was this interweaving of space and time.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that time is mutable. It changes, and so we have the speed of light. If when we are traveling at the speed of light, time stops,
Right.
then you can no longer count on the minds wandering into the past or future,
Right.
because only this moment is where we have any possibility of finding value. But the third chakra is really an important chakra to work with, because in the bigger story, the epic called the Mahabharata, you have a story after story of these 5 brothers and their common wife, which sounds weird when you talk about it, but totally makes sense when you read the stories. And they end up with one wife, by the way, because one Arjuna, the third chakra warrior, fell in love, and without seeing what he was talking about, Arjuna came home to where his brothers and his mother lived, and he called out to his mother, "Mother, wait till you see what wonderful thing I have found out there in the world." And the mother, without even looking up, says, "Whatever you found, make sure you share it with your brothers."
Whoa.
And so they had to work out this arrangement, which again sounds polyamorous by our standards, but it's talking about spiritual realities.
Right.
That we need that feminine divine with each of the chakras. Otherwise, they tend to be out of control. The third chakra is about fire. That's its elemental quality.
Right.
All you have to do is recognize that fire can rage out of control. We have fires on the west coast and east coast right now of this country, raging out of control. Huge amounts of damage, huge amounts of suffering. And yet, fire can be used constructively, and we use it in its various forms. Right now, the energy is being used, the electrons moving around in various patterns, to allow us to be in this virtual space together.
Right.
And so that's a form of fire as well. But within ourselves, the challenge is to bring that fire up into the heart. Now, the heart, we'll get to that next week, is infinitely expandable. And therein lies both the blessing and the challenge. Because we all know what it's like to be in the presence of someone, or to be that someone who's in a state of rage.
Right.
That is a lot of third chakra energy coming up to the heart and just expanding explosively like raging wildfires. Causes a lot of damage. However, when that fire can heat the air quality of the heart and feed it up to this chakra here, calmness, then we can begin to actually capitalize and use the energy of the third chakra on our behalf. Everyone has been around someone who has too much third chakra energy. That happens when someone wants to control everything and everyone around him. And it leads to people just feeling criticized all the time, never knowing what to do that's right, because because this other person, who may even be their superior in terms of their work or something like that, it's a horrible way to live. Rather than to have someone around you who is your leader, who is calm, supportive, constructive, and wants you to succeed. And so that person is going to encourage that third chakra energy within you to be strong and to harness that energy for to become in yoga terms a spiritual warrior. But this whole matter of what we look out at the world and see is so limited, and it takes, well, you and I are of an age that you may remember how it felt in 1968 to 72
Sure.
to be in this country, to be in this world. Wars, big wars.
Right.
And people suffering, people dying, a lot of political turmoil in the streets, a lot of political turmoil at levels of government. So it was not so different than it is right now. It didn't.
That was the most chaotic time that I can remember, starting with the '68 Democratic Convention,
exactly,
ending with Watergate, or that period of time was, people were realizing that, hey, your president might be lying to you.
Yes, but many people have forgotten or never lived through that era, and they don't have that available. I saw this wonderful cartoon this week, and it showed two guys, one looking through the hole in the fence, and the other guy higher up on a bridge, able to see the entire view.
Mm.
And the guy looking through the hole, all he saw was rain.
Mm-hmm.
He said to the other guy, "You lied to me. You said it was never going to rain. You said it was clear and beautiful outside." And then what you see as the viewer of this little cartoon is that what the guy through the peephole is seeing is a sprinkler in a lawn.
Uh-huh.
And the guy up on the bridge is seeing the entire thing, clear skies, sunny.
Yes. Yeah.
And my
great cartoon. I really can relate.
My challenge this week, I allowed myself, I did not watch anything on Tuesday. I chose consciously to not watch anything at all.
My wife does that too. She disengages for that. She doesn't want to get herself worked up.
From Monday through Tuesday, I didn't even notice. The way I knew what had happened was because I have some cryptocurrency, and I saw Bitcoin shooting up.
Uh-huh.
And I knew then exactly what had happened.
You put two and two together.
And so, and I was fine all day Wednesday until Wednesday night, and then it hit me, this heaviness.
Mm-hmm.
And I allowed myself some latitude to give myself time to just adjust. I knew I would. I knew I was not going to be there forever.
Right. Based on past experience, you have.
Oh, absolutely. And so I ate some things I wouldn't normally eat. I ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It felt great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had some coconut milk ice cream and ate a half a pint. It was probably 400 calories and
right.
And it was all good. It was fine. And then the next morning I woke up and I began to get my balance, my perspective back. Here's the thing: is that the thing about the chakras, Jim, is that I'm going to read from this book. And it's just a paragraph, and I've showed you this before.
Yes.
Chakras.
Right.
It's available from Crystal Clarity Publishers. It is It's a workbook, and it is well worth getting. It just lays out everything that you would want to know about the chakras from the perspective of Yogananda. There is a sort of a new age perception of the chakras, which is very surface. It's very shallow.
Yeah.
And so that you have these people who are new age thinkers. I don't mean to be derogatory in that, because there's some good things mixed in with that,
sure,
including an awareness of the chakras at all.
Right.
But so often people talk about my chakras are blocked. Well, that's just baloney. Chakras don't get blocked. We have karma. Karma, in order to be removed, takes work. It takes effort. It takes spiritual attunement of some kind. It takes a lot of things, but the chakras are not blocked. It is simply this. And so I'm going to read this from the workbook. Again, remember that no chakra is bad or negative. No chakra is blocked. It is only a matter of energy flows being restricted or misdirected within and through them. Working on changing attitudes is one of the finest ways of making spiritual progress and of making spiritual teachings become real in your life. I thought of you when I read that first sentence. All right. Changing attitudes is one of the finest ways of making spiritual progress. It is certainly one of the most important ways of working with the chakras. Change your attitude and you'll change your life. And this ends up being the simple truth that working with the third chakra, and I'll give you some specifics about the third chakra in a moment, but working with this fire that we carry within us, either because we have a lack of it, and you find people who move through life and they've got no energy. They're subject to whatever happens to them. And that's a sure sign of someone lacking in third chakra energy. And so for them, it's going to be about building energy up.
Right. I'm making
For other people, they have an overabundance of this. It is out of control. Their third chakra energy is leaking out into every aspect of their lives. These are people who will not have successful relationships, marriages, friendships, things like that, because they will always be driving people away. And they will always be trying to control things that they cannot control. And they will always be in a state of agitation. And when I say always, we sometimes become that person. It's not just that it's either one way or the other.
Right.
And so this third chakra energy.
I'm familiar with what you're describing personally. Yes.
You say you are?
Well, I have experienced that. So I know very well, and it's destructive to relationships for myself. And so part of my work has been to successfully channel that energy and to allow it to rise, and instead of emitting it in a way that causes pain and suffering. And the universe will reflect back to me if I have successfully channeled this fire, and then I do not cause damage to those around me. It's very, people would say, they don't understand this, but the universe tells you right away how you're behaving. If you're driving people away, you know it. And if people are attracted to you or want to be around you because you make them feel better, you can tell. So
well, people, it is, everything that you just shared is completely accurate in my perception of things. And the people who are dissatisfied with the way the election turned out and continue to amplify that are continuing to cause damage. They continue to bring chaos and anger and resentment, right, and judgment and despair wherever they go by continuing to spew that out. It is never a matter, though, of suppressing what those feelings.
Very important distinction, right?
It is a matter of re-channeling them in productive ways.
Right.
And the third chakra is, again, look, in terms of yoga postures, if someone wants a well-known yoga posture that will work with the third chakra and strengthen it, or let's say rather than strengthen it, balance it. Plank pose is it.
Yeah.
Yeah, plank pose is it. It seems like you're weight bearing, which you are with your arms and legs. But as you hold the pose longer and focus on that third chakra, you'll find that plank pose is a way of bringing that third chakra into harmony. There's no affirmation that we use with it.
That's a great tip.
It's just, and if you want a yoga posture that is going to bring that energy upward to the heart, to the throat, and spiritual eye, the pose would be camel pose. And the affirmation camel pose with calm faith, I open to thy light. So you bring this light from the third chakra up into the heart where faith abides,
Yes.
into the throat where calmness abides. You bring it to here.
Thank
Calm
you
faith,
so
I
much.
open to thy light.
That gives me something to actually do.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, also working with the third chakra in yoga terms, there's what is called Uddiyana Bandha.
Uddiyana.
Uddiyana Bandha is oftentimes when you separate your feet, bend your knees, plant your hands on your thighs, you exhale and pull the belly button back firmly and hold it in place, and energy begins to build.
Hmm.
And then you release it and put your attention to the point between the eyebrows. That second part is every bit as important as the tensing part. Because when you put your attention to the point between the eyebrows, the energy that you have gathered here will tend to go up here.
Oh, wow.
So that's called Uddiyana Bandha. Interestingly enough, I've mentioned the astrology of these chakras. The planet that is associated with the third chakra is Mars,
Right.
the god of war.
Yeah.
And that's totally befitting. So you understand, you
The
begin
red
to
planet.
see that the Greeks and the Romans, they were onto something. The Egyptians were onto something. They were pulling from these same pools of wisdom,
Yes.
just putting them out into the world in a different way.
Right.
The thing about yoga, Jim, is that, it is not creating anything. It is simply describing what will happen to anyone when energy begins to move inward and upward through them. It simply describes it. Now, knowing that energy anatomy can be helpful because it can begin to point you in the direction of what things are going to move the energy inward and upward. And one of the most like aha moments in this last week for me, even before the election, I think it was that it's not all the big things. It's not the daily meditations. It's not the bandhas. It's not the yoga postures that are solely. It's not the long, deep meditations. It's not only those things. It's the daily acts of kindness, of compassion,
Yes.
and the remembrance that there is a single source of life that flows through every living thing on this planet, including the guy who just got elected.
Yes.
And that it is the same source that flows through you or me. It is not different. People have been dismayed by some of the potential things that are going to occur, the people who are going to suffer. In 1947, when India was just gaining its independence, there was what was called the partitioning.
Right.
And the partitioning was the taking of what had been India and creating Pakistan, Bangladesh, and what is now modern India. This partitioning caused so much violence.
Yes.
People died. There was a mass migration, a forced migration of people to Pakistan and Bangladesh. And the suffering was massive.
Yes.
The great Indian saint, Ananda Moyma, during that time was asked by one of her disciples, Ma, will you not please intercede to ease the suffering? She meditated and came back with a simple statement, which may be the best, perhaps, a closing to our show. She said, do you not think that the one who created this world does not know how to run it? And what we see is not the entire picture.
Sure. Just a little hole in the fence.
We see exactly that hole in the fence. And the choice is, do we walk away from the fence and see the bigger view? Can we do that?
Can we?
And that's where the tools of yoga come in. They allow us to pull our head away from the little hole. They allow us to stand up. They allow us to look around. They allow naturally the energy to rise. And so that third chakra is a powerful chakra, and it is the warrior within us, but it's a spiritual warrior.
Right.
The one
And the
that
spiritual warrior does not always have to fight.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, before I say goodbye to you, I want to say this has been incredible. It's always great to speak with you and to listen to you and to learn from you, but it's been incredibly useful for me, giving me tangible things to do. But I'm scrolling across the bottom of the screen, we see AIRU.tv. That's the website you can go to see previous episodes. But also you'll see on that, I have this saying that I try to remind myself of, and, things change when we do. It says across the top of that screen. So thank you for helping us change.
Blessings, and it's absolutely my pleasure, Jim.
Thank you.
I'll see you.
Bye-bye. All right. That was so good for me. I hope it was good for you. But if you want to give us feedback, info@airu.tv is the way to do it. So let us know if anything was helpful. If you want more of something about the chakras, about anything to do with yoga, we have a great contact. I have a great contact, and we can always get the wisdom that has come from the ancients and has been passed down to us, and we can learn how to do these things. So it has been my pleasure, and I have work to do. The plank's hard for me, but I'm going to try it. Welcome to the final segment of Calm Down. And I want to introduce to you, my loyal listeners and viewers, Divya Lovewise, that wise yogi. And I would like you, at the end of every show, I'm a little bit agitated and worked up and all that kind of stuff. And I was wondering if there's something that you could do to calm me down. Could you just say goodbye to us in any way that you see fit?
Sure, I would love to.
I will take off and let you do that. Thanks again.
Okay. Well, bring yourself into a comfortable seated position, feeling your feet on the floor and letting your hands rest in your lap. Palms up or palms down is a great way to start bringing yourself back into center and focus with your own divine energy and letting go of anything that might have wanted to stick to us throughout the day that may be energy we don't want to carry throughout the day. So having this basic position, feeling grounded, even closing your eyes and taking a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And one of the ways we can bring ourselves back to center is observing with our senses what we can feel, the temperature of the air in the room, observing any sounds that you hear. Noticing any smells in the air. And then bring your awareness to your breath. As though you're watching it from the inside out. Watching the inhale wash into the body. And watching the exhale wash out of the body. Just like the waves of the ocean as they wash onto the shore. And if you find your mind still wandering, you can even place one hand on your lower belly and one hand on your heart, so that you can feel with your hands this breath washing in and washing out. And with your mind's eye, visualize this inhalation and exhalation as an internal shower, clearing away your energy so that it's refreshed, it's rejuvenated, and it's restored. Releasing your hands into your lap, just give yourself a few seconds of pause in this return to peace, enjoying it. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes, wiggling your fingers and your toes, feeling grounded in your body, grounded in the best part of yourself, and you can go out into the world and carry that best part in the forefront of your mind and your heart.